Well, let us dive in. Is it time to rethink the phrase coming out? There's a writer for Refinery 29, and they argue that it hands over power to other people by allowing them to either accept or reject you, leaving you at the mercy of their prejudices. The phrase coming out, Mina, perhaps we'll start with you on this one. Does that phrase work or not work for the community anymore?
So I grew up in Egypt, and in the Middle East, the idea of coming out was not part of our culture at all. So it was something that I never thought I could do. And then when I came here, there was kind of this huge expectation that you have to come out. I remember people would always be like, they would ask me questions, they would like try to get it out of me. And it always made me feel really uncomfortable. But it kind of made me realize that here we have this huge privilege and kind of this expectation on members of our community to come out. And this is just not the reality for so many queer people all around the world who are in circumstances where they can't actually come out. So I do think that we have to rethink this like expectation that if you're queer, you have to come out. And it's like something that we have to do.
Yeah, Trey.
Exactly. I think some really good points. I think also, too, there's this expectation that you have to be fully out at all times. And I think we really have to deal with the reality of that sometimes. For me, I mentor a lot of queer youth, and they're always like, I want to come out. I want to come out to my family and to my friends. And I always say that you need to really also look at how safe is it for you to come out, especially if you are living at home with your parents and you're financially dependent on them. Some parents have really strong reactions and can kick you out of the home, or, you know, you also have to think about your jobs. Even for me, who I feel I'm fully out right now, I'm in the South. My son is in a daycare. I'm not out at his daycare because I'm really just a little bit nervous and apprehensive around the whole thing of, will they treat my child differently? Whereas in Toronto, I'm fully out at all times, right? So I think people need to really think about that term, because people are out at certain levels. And, you know, there is definitely a privilege in living in Canada, living especially in Toronto, where you can feel free to be out. But that's not the reality of every single person.
Yeah, and Trey, going off what you said, sorry, I was going to say, going off what you said,
keep going, Mina.
there is always, for me, I feel like I've had to come out so many times. You know, when I came out to myself, when I came out to family members, now I identify as gender fluid. And it's always this idea of safety is the biggest thing, because even when I'm with members of my community, even sometimes when I walk down the street, like, you know, I feel like I am not fully safe to dress how I want to be fully myself. So it's always, but then I feel like, am I a hypocrite for toning things down in certain situations because I'm afraid for my safety? Does this mean that I'm not comfortable with myself, that I don't love myself? And so, yeah, we do have to rethink this idea, because you can't just fully be out all the time. Sometimes it is really safe to do that.
Do you guys remember Ricky Martin? There was that now infamous interview with Barbara Walters, and it was 21 years ago. But she really put him on the spot on national television, just sort of saying, so Ricky, settle it once and for all, basically. Like, are you gay or are you not gay? And he recently was speaking about this now and saying he still suffers trauma from that moment, like that idea of putting him on the spot. And this piece in Refinery 29, it had such a beautiful sort of way of putting it, that it's coming out is sort of framed as an obligation that's placed on your shoulders. Like you owe it, essentially, to let everyone know, which just seems, I have to say, like, as you were saying, Trey, like in 2021 today in Toronto, that just seems like an impossibility to approach someone and put them on the spot like that.
Yeah, it's wild. You know what? I want to go back to the question of safety, because I think that many people on different levels can understand code switching. And, you know, whatever community you are part of, we're all doing code switching all the time. You are adjusting how you speak, how you dress, how you address people, depending on the environment you are in. You know, I am a mixed person, and so I code switch all the time between my ethnicities, depending on who I'm with, where I am. In there somewhere is the authentic person, still trying to find her through therapy. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, right? But the flip side is when I code switch, I don't have to worry, for the most part, of my safety. And that is something very unique to the LGBTQ2+ community, where its code switching could mean the matter of life and death. And I think that that's why, for me as an ally, I look at that and say, what can I do to make the environment feel safer? And on a few weeks ago, I think right here on this show, we were talking about pronouns, and I had not yet added the pronouns she, her anywhere on email signatures or on my, you know, social media handles. And I thought, why haven't I? And someone on our show changed my mind, because I realized the pronouns are not just for me to identify how I identify, but it also is a signal to people who maybe are not sure, are they safe with me? Can they speak to me? Do they have to code switch? Do they not have to code switch? So I realized that if for allies, it's about raising the pride flag. It's about celebrating pride, even if you're not part of the community, because the whole idea is we are here together to hopefully make this a safer and happier community so everybody can be themselves. At least perhaps that's my pie in the sky hope.
And I also think Mina brought up a really great point about culturally as well. You know, I come from a Jamaican family, and I'm not going to say all Jamaicans are homophobic, but I will say my family, as a Jamaican family, was very homophobic. And so they're great now and they're wonderful. But that was something that was a true reality for me, that I was not safe within my own family. I did not feel safe. And I remember when my grandmother first heard that I was gay, she came over to me and she was like, "You must have learned that from the white girls at work, because you're not Ellen. We don't do this here," right? And so for her, she had never, ever heard of a Black Jamaican lesbian. Like, it was beyond her even realm of possibility. And so I think a lot of times we think that we have progressed, but sometimes culturally we are stagnant in our beliefs of what is a member of the gay community. And we don't think that it applies to us, especially in the older generation. So that's something else too that I tell a lot of people that I mentor: be very aware of just culturally where your family is. If there's nobody within the entire family who's identifying as queer.
Yeah, and Trey, so much of what you said resonated with me, because I remember when I was still in university and still living with my parents, I used to leave the house wearing something, and when I was with my friends, I would completely get changed into something that my parents wouldn't think was gay. And, you know, when I got my earrings pierced, my parents were like, "Oh my God, everyone from our community is going to know that," you know, and it was just this huge thing. And to me, I was like, these are just earrings. But to them, and within the context of Egyptian and Middle Eastern culture, this signifies so much more. And it signifies something that they don't want to do. So absolutely, we're always thinking about the context of our culture and who we can authentically be within those spaces.
Yes, exactly.